Turn, Cbet line, button versus big blind. Next line we're going to cover here in our module, how to play synchronous pots in position. For this video, we're going to focus on when we bet small on the flop, and then in other videos, I'm going to focus on the other flop bet size. But I want to start focusing when we bet the flop small because that's the most frequent size we're going to use on the flop. We saw that in the flop Cbet video, right? So I have already filtered for the spot here in the bots data. I'm going to show you guys real quick. So villain checks, we bet small on the flop, villain calls, and then turn, he checks to us. We can see here that the overall double barrel frequency in the spot is 39%. So very interesting here. It's a pretty low number, right? You're supposed to be checking 61% of your range on average in the spot. So I'm going to click here on the bet turn. I'm going to take a look at the different bet size the solver is utilizing here, of course, according to the sims that I have ran. And I ran these sims with 3 sizing options on the turn, which I thought were the sizings that humans were using the most in real games. I particularly like to use half pot, pot, and 2x pot, and I actually have a lot of sims with that sizing structure. But for the course here, I decided to run different set of sims because I know that you guys don't use much that sizing scheme, right? You guys like 2/3 size, so I included 2/3 size in the sim, 1.2x, and also something close to 2x. I think it's even a bit bigger than 2x. Yeah, but basically 2x size. So one medium size, 2/3, one big size, the 1.2x, and one very big size, which is the 2x sizing. Okay, so we can see here that the most often used is the 2/3 sizing when we optimize for one size on this node on the turn, followed by the 1.2, and then a little bit of the very large sizing. So let's start learning some bet size heuristics, as always, to see which runouts we should be using this very large sizing. So there are some runouts where we should be using this very large sizing. And I already browsed a little bit before starting the video, and we can see very clearly that those runouts are going to be on double Broadway flops. Double Broadway flops when the turn comes a blank. A lot of those examples are going to be like that. So King 10-8, turn comes a blank, we blast. Queen 10 deuce, turn comes a blank, we blast. We have then when the turn makes the board double Broadway. So we have like a high-low-low board, which are going to be betting small on the flop, of course. And then when the turn comes a Broadway, we bomb on the turn. Of course, the turn has to be a turn where there are no straights available. The turn has no straights available. Okay, so you see high-low-low, turn comes a Broadway, bomb. High-low-low, turn comes a Broadway, bomb. High-low-low, queen 6 deuce. We see here queen 7 3 10, bomb, and then queen 6 deuce ace, bomb. So either the board is a double Broadway on the flop and then turn comes a blank, or the board is like very dry on the flop, high, low, low, and then turn comes another Broadway, making the board double Broadway on the turn. Very, very clear pattern here to which runouts you should be using the 2x sizing. Take a look at that. King, Jack 4, rainbow, turn comes a blank, bomb. King, Queen 6, rainbow, turn comes a blank, bomb. Queen, Jack 4, blank, bomb. King 10-8, blank, bomb. And then you have King 7 deuce, so high, low, low, turn comes a Broadway, bomb. King 7 deuce ace, so King 7 deuce, turn comes a Broadway, bomb. King 7 deuce, turn comes a Jack, Broadway, bomb. Okay, so very clear pattern here, and it seems like these are by far the most frequent boards are going to use. Board runouts are going to use this bet sizing. You have here high, low, low, King 8-6, turn comes a queen, bomb. Okay, Jack 10-4, blank, double Broadway already, bomb. Queen 7-3. We have one example here of high, low, low, and then blank again on the turn, so it's not double Broadway. Still, we're bombing. But most of the runouts are like double Broadway runouts, either double Broadway on the flop or becoming double Broadway on the turn. Keep in mind, these runouts cannot be like third to flush or completing a straight. Okay, it has to be non-completing straight runouts. So very clear pattern here. Almost all of the boards that we can see here are going to follow this pattern, making the board double Broadway. We also have some jack highs here where the board brings a lot of draws. This can also be a thing. You can see here Jack 3 deuce 8. We saw a Jack 9 something I saw somewhere. Yeah, I lost it, but there was like a Jack 3 deuce 9 as well. Yeah, Jack 3 deuce 9. So some of those Jack high boards as well. Jack 9-4, a lot of draws. Jack 9-4, then 3, Jack 9-4, and then deuce. Okay, so basically double Broadways, and then some of those Jack high boards. And then on the 2/3 and 1.2x size, we're going to have some overlap, okay? A lot of the times, guys, your heuristic is not going to be able to be 100% accurate because there is going to be some overlap when you think about the board textures. Here with the 1.2x, it's basically going to be something in between in a scenario where the 2x is a scenario where you have a huge net advantage, and the 2/3 is a scenario where you don't have much. The 1.2x bet size is going to be used in scenarios where you do have your range is somewhat stronger than your opponent, but it's not like significantly stronger, right? So we're going to have quite a lot of examples here of high card boards when the turn comes a blank. So on those high card boards when the turn comes a blank, of course, we're going to have an advantage on the top pair region, on the over pair region, and we're going to be able to put some money into the pot, right? So you see some queen 9-7 boards, the turn comes a blank, we do that. We see some low boards when the turn stays low, we're also going to be using some larger bets. Queen 7-4, and then the turn is a Broadway. We can see here that this is typically a double Broadway run out, but you can see there is some overlap with the 2x bet sizing. We see here Queen 7-4-8, so a lot of draws available from villain's perspective, a lot of pair plus draws available. One thing that I like to think about is think about which region of your opponent's range you're trying to target, and then figure out what is a bet sizing that puts that region into a tough spot. I think that's a very good rationalization to pick the best bet sizing. So if you have a board texture where your opponent has a lot of pair plus draw, if you bet with the middling sizing, you cannot target that region. That region is going to have an easy call against the middling sizing, right? So that's a typical rationalization you can use in those situations. We have some low boards staying low. We have some low boards with an overcard on the turn. That's interesting. Some 10 high boards. The turn comes a jack, turn comes an ace, turn comes a queen. So it seems like low board, turn comes an overcard. You can use the 1.2x sizing. We have here double Broadway board, turn stays low. We're using some of this 1.2x sizing, right? So King 10-8 was the board that we saw before. Let's actually open that board and see if we can dig deeper on that, because it might be confusing at times, right? When we see what happens in the solver land. So you see here we're betting range for a small size on this board. And now let's take a look at what the pruning algorithm came up with for this board texture. We click on the strategy and we're going to see the different bet sizes that are being utilized. Yeah, so very, very interesting here. The 2x sizing it's actually 1.9x. The 1.9x sizing is only being used in the absolute blanks. So basically the hard runouts. If the turn opens a flush draw, the solver is not using the 2x anymore. Really, really interesting. So we see here that on the hard runouts, it is using the 2x. But not even on all of them, because if the turn is a 7, for example, even the hard one, because the 7 completes a straight, we go with the 1.2x. Take a look at how interesting is that. If it pairs the board, if the turn is a 9, bringing quite a lot of straights and 2 pairs, we size down even to 2/3. So you see the more 2 pairs and straights that the card makes available for both players, particularly also the out of position player, the more you're going to want to size down, right? So we have here 9 is a card we're going to size down. A 10 is a card we're going to size down. What about a jack? A jack is a card that we're going to size down, except the jack of hearts. So a jack we're going to size down. So all of those cards completing a decent amount of straights. Okay, and then on those that are like semi-blanks, you know, these are blanks, but they bring a flush draw. We don't get to utilize the super large sizing. Let's take a look at another texture that we saw on hand to note. Let's see this queen 10 deuce rainbow. Let's see this queen 10 deuce rainbow. Queen 10 deuce rainbow. Queen 10 deuce rainbow, again, range bet for a small size. Let's now take a look at the different turn cards, what the pruning algorithm came up with. And again, we see similar pattern here. The absolute blanks, the hard ones that are basically not bringing a flush draw, nothing. We're using the 2x. And then we're also using it on the 6, specifically the 6 and the 7 that bring a flush draw for some reason. This is just math. We're not going to be able to know the exact reason. This is just math here. We're trying to find the patterns, right? So on the hard runouts that doesn't blink the flush draw in, we get to use the 2x. On the runouts that bring the flush draw, we're mostly using the 1.2x sizing, even if it's a blank. We see that on the pairing runout, we're decreasing the bet sizing on the 10. On the queen, we still get to use the 1.2x. I guess on the queen, we're still strong enough. And then we're depolarizing on straight completing turns, particularly the king and the ace. You may think the king and the ace are really good for you, and in a sense they are. We can see that our betting frequency is pretty reasonable on those. However, they are bringing quite a lot of straights to the board, so we don't get to bet too large on those if we're going to optimize for just one size. So we see a very clear pattern here. Straight completing cards and pairing cards, we're going to size down to 2/3. Semi-blank, let's call them that way. The blanks that bring a flush draw in, we're using the 1.2. And the total blanks, so the hard combinations, the hard runouts, we're using the 2x size. Let's see one more example to see if the pattern is very solid. King Jack 4, let's say King Jack 4 rainbow. We're also going to be betting range for a small size on such a board. So range for a small size on that one. Let's take a look at the bet sizing heuristics on the turn. Take a look at that. Yeah, really solid. Really solid bet sizing heuristic here. We don't even have to browse hand to note all that much because it's pretty clear here. The blank hard runouts, we're using the 2x. The blank runouts that are bringing the flush draw, 1.2x. The runouts that are completing a straight, we're using completing a straight or pairing the board, unless the top card pairs, and it's very good for us. We're sizing up, but on the jack here, we are sizing down. On the queen that completes a straight, we're sizing down. On the ace that completes a straight, we are sizing down. Really cool. Through the solver here, we were able to see very clear the bet sizing heuristics. So bet sizing heuristics for these, let's take a look at some common patterns for the sizing down. It seems that straight completing third to flush runouts are really good to use the 2/3 sizing. So you see queen 9-7 jack, queen 9-7 8, triple Broadway boards where there's already a lot of straights available on the flop, third to flush runouts, pairing runouts, 4 to a straight runouts, 4 to a straight, triple Broadway where it's already available, third to flush, pairing runout, third to flush, pairing runout, straight completing. This one is actually surprising. King 9-6, turn comes the ace. We're using the 2/3. This one I would have expected a bigger size. So let me see what's going on here on King 9-6, because I would have expected a bigger size on King 9-6. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so we're splitting range on the flop. That might be the reason why. And then the ace on the turn. What was the ace? Ace of diamonds. Yeah. So let's see here what's going on across the different textures. Yeah, we see no 2x's going on here on King 9-6. And we see sizing down on straight completing cards, sizing down on the pairing cards. So pretty solid heuristic. It's just that sometimes we don't get to size up even on some of those strong runouts. So the 2/3 runouts here, we see pretty much a lot of patterns here. Straight completing runouts, third to flush runouts, paired runouts, triple Broadway board that already had a straight, obviously. And what else? Yeah, paired boards. Paired boards on the flop or on the turn. Let's take a look at that if that holds true. Let's see if we filter for paired flops. If we filter for paired flops, is it true that we should almost never size up the turn? Let's take a look at that. Actually, I go like this. Hand strength, board on the turn is paired. No, I actually want flop being paired. Now that was a mistake. So I want the flop to be paired. So when the flop is paired, let's see the bet size is being utilized. Yeah, so when the flop is paired, we almost never size up larger than 2/3 on the turn. So we have here the heuristics, very clear the heuristics for us. So when are we going to use the 2/3 sizing? Basically on all of these runouts. Paired flops, or when the turn pairs the board, third to flush runouts, straight completing runouts, and then of course the 4 to flush, 4 to straight. I think we're also going to use that. So let's have another closer look, and then we can move on to hand class frequency heuristics. So straight completing, third to flush, paired runouts, triple Broadway where the board had already straights available, paired runouts, paired flops. That's basically it. Straight completing, paired, third to flush, paired, third to flush, straight completing, paired, straight completing, paired, straight completing. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's it. Very, very clear here, the bet size heuristics. Let's note that down because sometimes it can be confusing, right? So bet sizing heuristics. When to use the 1.9x pot when in double Broadway boards, turn comes offsuit blank. Basically it. Double Broadway boards, and here either double Broadway flop or turn became double Broadway. Okay, it can be both of these things. If on the turn the board is double Broadway and it didn't bring a flush draw, we're using the 1.9x pot. Actually, let me see quickly if on the runouts that it becomes double Broadway, whether it matters or not if it opened a flush draw, because I don't think it does. Yeah. In the high-low-low boards where the turn opens the double flush draw, if it's a Broadway, it doesn't matter much for us. So, for example, Queen 7-3 board, we're going to be betting range for a small size. Everyone knows that. If we take a look at the runouts that bring a Broadway, in this case, a 10, a jack, a king. Okay, so there is a difference. There is a difference here. And it's not always 100%. On the 10 and on the ace, very good. On the jack, he has like, on hearts and spades, it does the size up. On diamonds and clubs, it doesn't. On the king, on the hearts, it does. On the other ones, it doesn't. So mixed signals here. Mixed signals. Let's see the queen 6 deuce 1. Again, range for small size. Let's see the different turn runouts here. On the 10, all size up. On the ace, all size up. On the jack, almost all except clubs. On the king, only the hearts. Yeah, so the king seems to be a unique card where we're still betting 1.2x because I guess we're still value betting quite a lot of our queens. So this is a card that's so good for a range that you see like you get to bet 1.2x on the turn with ace queen on the king run out. So that's very interesting. So it seems to me that the turn card becoming the double Broadway board on the 10 and on the ace, perfect. On the jack and on the king, it has some issues, particularly on the king. King might be an exception to this, where you still want to bet 1.2x spot. And then the 67% pot runouts are a lot of runouts, right? So paired boards, so paired flops, any turn. So paired flop, let's not say any turn, let's say most turns. So if the flop is paired, you're going to bet 2/3 on the turn. If the board pairs if the turn pairs the board, you're going to use it. Third to flush runouts. Straight completing runouts. Those are really significant. Straight completing runouts, we can't size up. We have to use the 2/3. So straight completing runouts, third to flush, turn pairs the board, paired flops. That's it, right? That's the bulk of the runouts where we use this bet sizing, right? I think that's it. we don't see it many other runouts like this. So that's basically it. Straight completing runouts, third to flush, turn pairs the board, paired flops. Everything else is gonna be in between. So where did he use the 1.2x pot size? Basically on everything else. These are like blankish runouts, right? So it's a run out that it's not a paired flop, it's not a turn that pairs the board, it's not a third to flush, it's not a straight completing. It's a kind of blankish run out. So on the blankish runouts, we're going to use the 1.2x pot. Those blankish runouts, so let's say we have like a queen, 7, deuce, 9 type spot. This is a blankish runout, right? We're not super strong to the point that we want to use 2x pot, but it's not a spot where we want to size down because it's not a unique runout that makes our opponent's range super similar to ours in terms of strength. Okay, so basically blankish runouts, we're going to use that. And in these runouts, we're going to use 1.9x spot. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So with this, we can, let's filter for the runouts where we are going to depolarize. And then let's talk about some frequency heuristics, hand class frequency heuristics. So we just established that if the board is paired on the flop, we're going to size down. If the turn is a third to flush, we're going to size down. If the turn pairs the board, we're going to size down. And if the turn completes a straight, how can I do that here? Let's see the bet sizes here. Yeah, so we successfully filtered most of the boards that we're going to be depolarizing on. Now we get to filter for some hand class and see some hand class frequency heuristics. Number one that we always like to take a look into is 2-pair plus, right? How do we play our 2-pair plus in these runouts? Let's actually paired board, third complete, straight complete. Well, let's include. Let's include 2-pair plus. I was going to filter for trips plus, but let's do 2-pair plus. So we see here that we are checking about 25% of the time with our 2-pair plus. Take a look at that. Yep, exactly 25. So you can put the 2-pair plus in the 75% bucket. Okay, so we can see here that we should be checking still some amount of our 2-pair plus on those types of runouts. This is important to keep your range balanced. So 7-6, you're going to be checking sometimes here. 7-6. Now on the 7 pairs, you're going to be checking sometimes. Here on the fortress straight, you're going to be checking sometimes. Queen 10 and queen 8 3. Take a look at that. We're checking queen 8, queen 6 deuce queen. Jack 10, so a lot of pairing runouts. This is 4 to a flush. Let me exclude 4 to a flush. Let me exclude 4 to a flush and 4 to a straight. 4 to a flush or 4 to a straight. No. And not 4 to a flush, 4 to a straight. Okay. That's better. So still 25% slow plays. So we should be slow playing about 25% of our strongest hands. Okay, this is quite relevant. This is quite relevant. It means that in order for us to be balanced, we need to slow play 25% of our 2-pair plus. This includes stuff like this. Jack 10 here, 2-pair. Queen 9 on king queen 9 4. We're checking on the turn sometimes. Queen 4 on king queen 9 4. We're checking sometimes. Those are difficult to find, huh? Queen 4 on king queen 9 4. Ace 9 with the straight and flush draw. Trips. Top 2 pair on a third to flush. Top trips. This is using the Slow playing block with checking range heuristic. Villain's gonna check the ace highs on the river, so you get slow play the ace 7. What else? Pocket tens. This one, queen 10. Queen 10 on king, queen 7. You're gonna check sometimes. So 25% checks, guys. 25% checks with your 2-pair plus. In the runouts, we are depolarizing our betting strategy. Okay, 25%. What else we should talk about here? Well, we should certainly talk about the draws region. We know that one of the pillars of GTO strategy. So you guys see that in these videos, I'm always talking about hand classes that refer to the pillars of GTO strategy. We need to low play top of range. We covered top of range, low playing 25%. We need to mix it up with the draws. Let's take a look at the draws. The draws are checking 37% of the time. We have to check back 37% of our draws. It's really significant. And I filtered for open-endeds and flush draws. Okay, I filtered for open-endeds and flush draws. Let's also remove the possibility of ace highs. We know that ace high draws should generally be played more passively. So let's imagine that on the turn, we have king, queen, or jack high. Okay, so let's imagine this. Cool. We're still slow playing 36% of our draws on the turn, even when they're not ace high. So very clear here. You should be putting those draws in the 60% bucket, checking 40% of your draws behind. So let's take notes of that. Hand class frequency heuristics. Let's take notes of these hand class frequency heuristics. Here you should be 2-pair plus. This is for the 67% pot runouts. Your 2-pair plus should be in the 75-25 bucket. The draws, open-ended straight draws plus flush draws, should be in the 60-40. Take a look at that. Really, really interesting 60-40. So we should be checking sometimes. Huh? King Jack. Who checks King Jack with the King of Spades here? I don't. I'm not gonna lie here. I don't check King Jack here with the King of Spades. 10-6 of clubs. I'm mostly betting this too. King Deuce. We need to check 10-8 here on the pair board. 9-8 on the pair turn. 10-6 on the pair turn. So you see most of the runouts we're gonna be doing this are paired flops and paired turns. This one here on a third to flush, we're still checking sometimes with the 9 trips on the board. King Jack here, really nice looking hand, right? King of diamonds and the open-ended. Queen 7, King 10, third to flush and paired board. 9-6. Take a look at that. Ace, Queen, Jack 5. We're also checking some of our flush draws. 6-5 here. So draws very clear. We cannot be super aggro with them. Then also the air region. We need to barrel our airs and sometimes our low pairs, right? So let's filter for the airs first. No pair, no drop probably doesn't bet much. 27% still. Wow, that's sick. That's really sick. We still barrel 25% of complete air in those spots. I was not expecting to be this much on these types of boards. But turn pair the board, jack 8 of clubs. You gotta fire sometimes. 7-5 of spades. Take a look at that. King, Queen, Queen 8, King. You just fire a little bit. Jack 8 offsuit, Queen 7, 3. Jack 10 offsuit on the pairing board. Jack 5 of diamonds on King 8, Deuce 3. 5-4 on King, King, Deuce 7. Jack 5 on the paired board. Nice. So you see about 25% barrels on these types of depolarizing runouts. So the air region, 25% bet, 75% check. We have it right here, the air region with our hand class frequency heuristic. If we combined Let's combine that with the 1 over hand class. It goes up to 33. So the 1 over is barreling decent amount here. If we remove the no pair, no draw, yeah, take a look at that. 1 over card is betting decent amount here, 40% of the time. So just having 1 over card already shoots that up. To 40-60. 40-60, as you can see here. 40-60 with the 1 over card. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. Having that 1 over card already puts us into a spot where we can barrel. So we covered most of the hand classes. We covered 2 pair plus, draws, air, and then 1 over card. Let's go over also the top pair region. It's going to be a significant region here for us. Top pair, good kicker, 65-35. We have to control our frequencies there with our top pair, good kicker, but still have to bet them. And then top pair, weak kicker, we're probably going to see something much more passive, basically 33-67. All right, so you can adapt this to the buckets that you use. So if you use multiples of 50% bucket of 25%, you're gonna shift this to 50-50, right? This one you also can shift to 50-50. It's a bit less precise, but totally fine in my opinion. This one you're gonna shift to 75-25, or if you play with the multiples of 20%, you're gonna shift this to 60-40. Okay, 60-40 is the most precise one, or you can shift this to the 75-25. And this here, same thing, you can shift it to the 75-25, or I'm sorry, the 25-75. Or if you want to use the multiples of 0.2, which is also totally fine, you can shift it to the 40-60. Okay, so just reminding you guys that you don't need to use these exact frequencies here. I recommend you guys put the hand class into a bucket. Okay, just trying to remind you guys of this. So really, really interesting here about the double barrel on these types of runouts. Quite a lot of slow play. Now let's take a look at these somewhat blankish runouts, right? So what we want here is basically any runout that is not this. We want runouts that are not this, and we want runouts where the turn is kind of a blankish card. We also don't want the super high cards that make the board double Broadway. We want runouts like this, deuce through 9, that are somewhat blankish, right? So let's take a look at that. Let's remove the top pair filter, and we see here that on those blankish runouts, we're betting 33% of the time on average. And the bet sizing, if we did things right, it's supposed to be mostly the large one. So very good, our filter is good. And now let's talk about hand class frequency heuristics for the 1.2x sizing, right? So hand class frequency heuristics for when we bet 1.2x on the pot, those kind of blankish runouts. Let's start with always what we really want to see is the 2 pair plus or 2 pair plus, guys, needs to be slow played. This is a fact of equilibrium. Take a look at that, 80-20. So we slow play a little bit less on these blankish runouts, but still 20% slow plays. Okay, 20% slow plays. If you take a look at some of these checking hands, you're gonna have to slow play a little bit. So we'll take a look at this. Ace deuce on ace 9 deuce 5. You're gonna have to slow play sometimes. A7, this one with a lot of offsuit 2 pairs. This one, same thing. This one, a lot of 2 pairs available. A7 here, ace 9 7 5. Top set here with the blockers. Queen 5, look at those one. Queen 5 on queen 5 deuce 6. We have to check sometimes, right? So about 20% checking with our 2 pair plus. Let's take a look at the draws region. The region of draws, open-endeds, and flush draws. 50-50 split. Very similar to before. Very similar to before. Before we had 60-40, now we have 50-50. The sample is not the largest one, so we're going to have some variance here. But 50-50, very close to what we had before. So 75-25, 80-20, 60-40, 50-50. We're probably going to come to the conclusion that we should use the same hand class frequency heuristics regardless of the renown, which would be amazing, right? For our execution, it would be amazing if that were to hold true. Let's jump straight to top pair good kicker. We have 70-30, top pair good kicker. Very similar, guys. Very similar. 70-30, top pair good kicker. In the previous one, we saw 65-35. And we have 70-30 here. So I'm loving this. I'm loving this because it can make our lives really easy. If you take a look at top pair weak kicker, we have 25-75. Also similar, a bit less, but also pretty similar. We had 33-67 on the one before. Now we have 25-75. It makes sense here because here we're depolarizing because of the renown. Here we are polarizing more. So we check a bit more with the top pair weak kicker. Makes perfect sense to me. And then the last one is the air region that we didn't take a look. For this one, I'm going to combine these two because we're probably not going to have much sample otherwise. And we have 30-70 with the air region. Again, really similar to before. The air region before 25-75. Now we have 30-70. Let's filter it specifically for the complete air here. And we see 25-75 basically. So guys, pretty much, I'm not going to say exactly the same, but it's so close. So close that I think probably the best course of action here is to use the same hand class frequency heuristics regardless of the bet size you're going to use here. So this one you can turn into a 75-25. This one you turn into a 50-50. Oh, but it's a bit less accurate. It's not a big problem. This one 75-25. Now this one, yeah, it's a bit more top pairs than you need, but I prefer to round to the bigger bucket than to the smaller one. And here 25-75, right? It seems to me this makes it for a very easy execution. 2 pair plus, you slow play 25% of the time. Draws, you slow play half the time. The air region, you only bet at 25%. Top pair is good kickers, 75% bucket. Top pair with kicker, 25% bucket. Isn't that the dream in terms of execution? You know the bet size you're going to use, and you know all of the betting buckets for your hand classes. This is the power of studying hand class frequency heuristics. It seems like we can put all of those bet sizes into the same hand class frequency heuristics. In the next video, we're going to talk about hand class and bet sizing heuristics for when we size up the flop. See you there.